But the reason for me being here is to introduce you to our speaker this morning. He's one of our earliest winners of a scholarship, and Peter Dew's story is truly inspiring. Over the past 9 years since winning a scholarship, he's become a wonderful advocate and ambassador for the Perth Convention Bureau's scholarship program. So please allow me to introduce you to Peter Dew.
Winston Churchill was a famous leader and one of the all-time great public speakers. Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, a very funny comedian and mime artist who could make his face into any expression as if made of plasticine. And Bruce Willis, a well-known actor, an action figure who always saved the day. These three people couldn't make it today, so you've got me. Peter Dew. Who is Peter Dew? Simply, I'm a person who stutters. I have stuttered all my life, and I stutter every day. And as I stand before you today, my one concern is that I might stutter, and the embarrassment and the shame that that would bring me. My stutters had a huge impact on my life. Through high school and university, my only way of communication was through my trusty pen and notepad. I was an elective mute, not once participating in tutorials, class, answering a question, not once. But I did graduate. I graduated as a medical scientist, and I started work in one of Perth's hospitals, and I was put in the basement of the hospital with no patient contact and a directive: you will not answer the telephone. I became good at my job, and over the next 4 or 5 years, new graduates came to me and I trained them, and then I saw them leapfrog over me in the promotion stakes. This annoyed me and I got quite angry. So I went to my director and said, "What's going on? How come I'm not getting a promotion?" And I remember his response: "Peter, your communication skills are so poor that you can never expect to be a senior scientist or a laboratory manager. In fact, you should be grateful that you've got a job at all." This really affected me. This is when I hit the wall, my watershed moment, and I realised that I had to change. I could no longer avoid situations. I could no longer get by writing on my piece of paper. So I underwent speech pathology and joined the Speakeasy Association, a self-help group for people who stutter. Over the next 10 years, 15 years, I chipped away slowly, trying to improve my fluency. And in 1999, I found myself president of the Australian Speakeasy Association. Quite an honour for little humble me. And at the same time, in my capacity as president, I applied for the Perth Convention Bureau scholarship. And I won. I'd never won a thing in my life, and all of a sudden I had a Perth Convention Bureau scholarship. With this scholarship, I travelled to Denmark in Europe to the World Congress for People Who Stutter. It was exciting, exhilarating, and I came back motivated and energised and went to the Perth Convention Bureau, and the Speakeasy Committee and said, "We should bid for a World Congress in Perth." So with the aid of Perth Convention Bureau, their advice, their guidance, we put together a bid, and in 2001 I went to Belgium. I had to go to Europe 2 years in a row, and I know that's tough, but someone had to do it. went to Belgium and put forward a bid to host the 2004 World Congress in Australia, Perth. We won. We were now holding the rights to host the 2004 World Congress. I returned to Perth with enthusiasm and the realisation that the hard work was now to begin. The next 3 years, with the committee from Speakeasy and some guidance with the Perth Convention Bureau, we put together the World Congress. The 2004 World Congress for People Who Stutter was the best there ever was. The academic program was complete. There was something for consumers, professionals. The hospitality of the Australian people, our weather, our beaches blew the rest of the world away. We had over 350 delegates from 25 different nations. It was a success. Now, the hardest thing about running the World Congress for Speakeasy was the finances. We had an annual turnover of $5,000 and we were now hosting a $350,000 project. There was significant risk. What if not enough delegates came our way? What if we made a loss? And how do you pay those deposits for the airfares, for the guest speakers, the accommodation deposits? So in one of our brainstorming sessions, a member named Ken suggested, why don't we start an outdoor movie theatre? So in 2001, on the banks of the Swan River in Burswood Park, Movies by Burswood was started. The first couple of years were hard. Speakeasy had a little band of volunteers. Then we brought on more volunteers, Riding for the Disabled, Camp Quality, Starlight Foundation, Ronald McDonald House, to name a few. And this provided us with the financial basis we needed. And after 8 consecutive years, Movies by Burswood has contributed over $1.2 million to the children's charities of Western Australia. Movies by Burswood is a success story. Who would have thought a little band of volunteers who stutter could pull together such a great project that is continuing on, adding value to the community of Perth? Movies by Burswood is a result of the 2004 World Congress for People Who Stutter, and indirectly the 2000 Perth Convention Bureau Scholarship. The scholarship has meant a lot to me. It's meant a lot to Speakeasy. It's put us on the map. We're now recognised as world leaders in self-help. For the community, we not only pumped money into the economy as part of the World Congress, but Movies by Burswood continues to add value to the community of Western Australia. And myself, my own personal development, let me take a step back in time. And I'd ask you to look at the screen for a moment. I understand that that may be uncomfortable for some of you, as it is for me, but did you notice the hairstyle back then? The comb over. Nowadays we just buzz it short. So I've grown a lot in my own personal development and my career. I became a senior scientist, I became a manager, I became manager of a statewide service. Winston Churchill used to stutter, and he overcame his stutter by spending 1 hour's preparation for every minute of speaking time that he gave in Parliament. Rowan Atkinson used to stutter, And he found that when he became a comedian and used mime, he could communicate without stuttering. And Bruce Willis stuttered badly as a teenager, but when he did drama and took on the persona of another person, he found that he didn't stutter. And Peter Dew, what does he do? I just put my hand up to speak every chance I get. And every time I speak, it gets a little easier. I stutter a little less. I get a little less nervous. The Perth Convention Bureau Scholarship is a great opportunity. To the finalists and to those of you who win, what are you going to do with this opportunity? What are you going to do for your organisation, for your association? What could you potentially do for the community of Western Australia? How can you add value to this opportunity? And more importantly, what are you going to do for yourself, for your own personal development? Because if I can stand before you today, you can achieve anything that you want. What are you going to do with this opportunity? Thank you.
That was brilliant. And I'm very lucky to do a lot of events where I see a lot of presenters from around the world. And I tell you, there's some fairly average presenters out there. Peter, that was really, really good. And I arrived pretty early this morning, as I always like to check out the event before I get here. And that doesn't just come naturally. Peter was up here on stage marching around doing his preparation. So I know a lot of hard work goes into something like that, and I'm sure everybody appreciates it. Peter, you're a great ambassador. Well done.